right, it is Friday, February 3rd, 2023. You're tuned into Green Dot Daily, Action Network's daily sports betting show. I'm your host, Brendan Glasheen. We're here every weekday at noon Eastern, streaming live in the Action Network app. It's a very good product. I know bias. We're coming to you on the show. I'm the host of the show. I encourage you to watch the show in the app. You can track your picks, watch the show, tail picks, whatever tickles your fancy. But yes, we're live in the app, also live on the Action Network HQ YouTube channel. Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use the bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,000 first bet insurance. Terms and conditions apply. Coming up on today's program, the Wonder Goal podcast. Two of the three joining us, BJ Cunningham, Anthony Dabbundo. They'll jump in and give their picks for the EPL slate. There's a match coming up today at 3 Eastern. Also a couple of other matches they're targeting over the course of the weekend. And then Sean Little has a pick tonight in the NBA. That's coming up. But first, we welcome in Stuckey. He joins us on this Friday. Stuck, we're still, 9 days away now from the Super Bowl, but looking at the current line, it is still Eagles as a favorite at -1.5, total sitting at 50.5. So there's some plus money on Kansas City on the money line, and you, my friend, are on the Chiefs. Why?
Yeah, I'm ready for this game to start. I mean, this. I think we'll probably talk again next Friday about the Super Bowl again.
True.
So yeah, we were recording our podcast, Raybon and I. We did a fun episode that's out there now about the history of the Super Bowl, and we'll do our preview this weekend. That'll be out early next week. But yeah, I'm ready for the game to start. But that's how it is these 2 weeks. To talk about every single angle ad nauseum. And yeah, I like the Chiefs here as an underdog. For me, it was, you're not going to find the most value in the Super Bowl line from a spread perspective. The NFL market's pretty efficient, especially by the time the last game of the year comes around. But I do understand why the Eagles took money early. There's the injury concerns with the Chiefs. But, with 2 weeks to prepare, I think that at least they're going to have some of their receivers out there. I think Snead will be fine at cornerback. And to me, this just comes down to, there's a big experience edge for the Chiefs, their staff, their quarterback playing in big games. But this comes back to just backing Mahomes here to win the game. And the easiest way I could put it is in 10 years from now, I would kick myself if I didn't take Patrick Mahomes. This is how I think I'm going to look at it if I didn't bet it. I didn't take Patrick Mahomes as an underdog against Jalen Hurts in his first Super Bowl. Right? Are you kidding me? So I have a lot of respect for the Eagles. Yes, their path was a joke. The NFC is a joke. That doesn't mean that they're not a great team. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. So, but I think that their defense might be a tad overrated, right? You saw they really haven't faced many good offenses. They didn't face any in the playoffs. They faced the Giants and then a team without a quarterback. So you got to go all the way back to the regular season, and then you got to keep going back. I mean, you got to go to the Cowboys, put up 40 on them. Aaron Rodgers, who got hurt, and then they put up 33. The Lions, maybe the best offense they played all year, and that's before the Lions really got it going in week one. They put up 30 in a game trailing state. They did play the Jags, but that was in 30-mile-an-hour winds. It was bad weather conditions. But some of the elite offenses they faced, they've got a lot. And I think the Chiefs are going to have a great game plan here. They have 2 weeks to prepare. You saw Dak Prescott go, 24 of 24 in that game against the Eagles' zone defense looks. I think Mahomes is, the offensive line. This isn't the offensive line that we saw in the Super Bowl that got dominated by the Bucs front. That was a horrendous offensive line. I think this offensive line will hold up against a really good defensive front. I think they're going to use a lot of tempo. And then with who's going to play receiver, one of the things is, you have Kelsey, but they're not uber reliant on any one receiver, and that's hard to game plan for. So there's that element of uncertainty here that might favor the Chiefs. But at the end of the day, I'm putting my money on Patrick Mahomes to win this game. He's 18-6-1 against the spread in his career, including the postseason, as either an underdog or a favorite of 3 or less. So basically, when you need him to win the game, he's 18-6-1 against the spread, 75%, covering by about 6 points per game on average. So I'm rolling with Patty, taking a little chance on some of these injuries, but I think it'll be more positive news next week, and then you'll start to see more Chiefs money come in. And I like the over as well. I think it'll be a fun, exciting game. Chiefs come out on top.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up. I think the edge on Kansas City, you got to get them now before there could be some encouraging news, especially for those receivers. Mecole Hardman is probably the one who's most in question. The reporting from Mike Garafolo of NFL Network, they're going to gather their options if Hardman has a chance to play, but it was made public yesterday that Kadarius Toney, Juju Smith-Schuster did not practice for the Chiefs yesterday. So if encouraging news comes in on those players, plus you factor in Kelsey getting better, Mahomes wasn't even on the injury report ahead of the Bengals game, I think the rest benefits the Chiefs more so.
Yeah,
And
and
Andy Reid is the play caller.
DNP on it's a Thursday for like the game's was in 10 days. I don't put too much stock into that. So yeah, we'll have to monitor the news there. But I would agree. I don't think that if you like the Chiefs, I would take the points now. I don't think that it would ever get to Philly -3. So, but if you get positive news on the Chiefs, I think you could see a wave of sharper Chiefs money, just like you did. I mean, this kind of is a mirror of the Bengals Chiefs game, right? There was all of the questions surrounding Mahomes. You saw the Bengals take money right away. The Bengals went to -2.5, positive injury news on Mahomes. And then all of a sudden the Chiefs are, 1.5, 2-point favorites.
Yeah, it feels like the 2s, the 2.5s, those days are behind us now for the Super Bowl. Okay, you have another angle on the game. You mentioned you like the over, which would bode well on this next pick that you're going to fade a kicker. Yeah,
so I like points, but I'm going to play the under on Jake Elliott kicker points at 7.5. My fellow colleague and kicker prop guru Nick Iffen agrees on this play, which I like to hear. And I think that if I like the Chiefs here, and I like the over. I think that these teams are going to be aggressive throughout, and the Eagles, more game than not, are going to be in a trailing state. But this is already an aggressive team, and I think that they're going to pass up long field goals for going for it on fourth down. They've done it all year, and they've usually been ahead, and they've usually played inferior opponents. That's not the case here. Also, they at times you'll see them line up with the 2 and say, let's try to draw them off sides, because they know we have a free first down, a free 2-point conversion from the 1, because we can just sneak it with Jalen Hurts and it's a free yard every single time. So you could see that happen. I also could see them coming out and just going for 2 a couple times throughout the game, and I think they're going to play this really aggressive. So if I had to name or guess a final score of the game, I would say Chiefs 30-24. That puts them at 3 touchdowns and a field goal, 6 points. So I think that this line should be maybe under 7, -115-ish, not 7.5. You could find pretty much even money. So there's a lot of variance in a bet like this, but I think it's a bit high. Also, the Chiefs have been really unlucky. This is just a random note to keep in mind. It has nothing to do with this game, but just from a regression standpoint, no one missed a kick all year against the Chiefs. They were 100% on extra points and 95% or 94.5% on field goals, which is crazy. The average for field goals is like 85, and the average for extra points is like 94. So the Chiefs, the regression gods are owed maybe a missed kick or 2. And Jake Elliott is one of 2 kickers to have missed an extra point in the Super Bowl since 1990. Only 2 kickers have. But I think the Eagles are aggressive here, and you're going to see more touchdowns than field goals. And I think ultimately this number is just a bit too high. So I like the under here.
You brought up the Jacksonville game that was in Philly way back when. That's when Elliott was banged up. He did tough it out, made a key field goal in that game, but it was a game in which Philly trailed, and their aggressiveness to not only score touchdowns, trailing by 2 scores, they had those moments on the sideline. Do we go to our kicker? I realized the scenario is different with him being healthy and the game being played indoors in Arizona, as opposed to rainy, snowy, disgusting Philadelphia. So, but you're like the under. Very good. Okay, on to college basketball. You do not have a play on the slate for tomorrow. I'm sure you will have plays. Check out Stuckey in the Action app. But you have an angle on the national championship, which, folks, we're in February. We're a month away from conference tournament season, and we'll be in March before you know it. Here are the latest odds right here. We got it up on the screen now. Houston's your favorite at +600. Alabama, Purdue with Edey, arguably the player of the year, Tennessee just got knocked out by Florida the other night. So I know this is regurgitating and it's cliche. It's wide open. The parity's there. But your future pick that you're going to give out on the show today kind of reflects that.
Yeah, it's truly wide open. I think this would be one of the most wide open tournaments we've ever seen. Like the difference between, the teams that'll be the 1s and the 2 seeds compared to the 3s and the 4s, that gap is as small as it's ever been. So, if you're an 8 seed, a 7 seed, it's not as difficult this year because it's like, we got to face a 1 or a 2. I mean, it's the 3 or 4, it's almost just as difficult. So I like Indiana. The key, I think, here this year, and this is how I look at the college basketball landscape this year in particular, is you want to beat, there's like 15 to 20 teams, I think, but come March that are going to have the ability to get to the Final Four and then ultimately cut down the nets if they're not like a complete long shot. 15 to 20. If you're in that mix, if you're one of the best 15 to 20 teams, you can win it all this year. Some years it's like, there's 3 or 4 teams. One of them is probably going to win it. And I think, look, TCU, if you go, that's my pick to win it all. It was my pick before the year. I stick with my picks throughout the year. Mike Miles is going to come back. Their price, you can maybe find a 40 to 1 out there. I already have them. And then a future that I just added is Indiana. That 50 to 1 is a price you can find in a lot of places. That's what I like to quote. But if you search, you could find maybe, I think, search really far and wide. You can find maybe a 75 to 1, but there's 60, 65 to 1. But anything 50 to 1 or better in Indiana, I think this is the right time to buy them. Coming into the year, this is a team that people said has a chance to go to the Final Four. And I agree with them. They've had some struggles, and they've also had some injuries. And they weren't playing that well. They've shown signs of life of late. I also like some of the adjustments that Woodson has made, and he's willing to change some things up. But they play Purdue, and they have a great home court advantage. They play Purdue at home tomorrow, number 1 team in the country. They play Rutgers, another top 20 team, at home next week. So if they win those 2 games, I think they're going to have a good shot to do so. Their odds are going to come down. And I think by the end of this month, you could get Xavier Johnson back. Geronimo's a missing time. Race Thompson was injured. He's still trying to get back to himself. So this is a team that's only going to get healthier. And we've seen the peak of what they've looked like just in the recent weeks, not even at full strength. Getting some freshmen that are, big contributors, some valuable playing time. I think this is the right time to buy Indiana. I ultimately think they are one of the 15 to 20 best teams that will be in that mix come March. 50 to 1, especially if you could find even better than that. I think it's worth a wager right now ahead of their home date with the number 1 team in the country tomorrow.
Yes, Purdue is their matchup tomorrow, 4 Eastern. They play Purdue again later in the month on the road. I think I think it's not a bad call. I mean, Jackson Davis averaging a double-double. He's pretty darn good. He could be a guy that we watch in March, and it could be his time to shine. And
yeah, he's an All-American. So like you have an All-American that you can go to. They're just getting they're building a lot of depth now as well with some of the injuries they've had. But Xavier Johnson, who I presume will be back, he's been, his boot is off. He's been shooting. Hood Schifino's has looked great. And I think come March, when you have an All-American, you've built some depth. And I think that this team could be an extremely tough out and very live to get to the Final Four. And this is the right time to buy. That's how you want to look. Like if you have a team that's interested in, look at the schedule. And you can always buy a little bit here and buy a little bit in a bit to kind of diversify and time it. But Indiana, if you're going to buy them, I think this is the time. If they lose to Purdue, right, they might not be at full. They're probably not going to be at full strength. You lose to Purdue, their odds aren't going to drop much. But I think this is close to the bottom on them.
I would imagine we're going to see you tomorrow in the app taking Indiana with the points. I would imagine they're a dog tomorrow night at home.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see where it opens, but yes, I will most likely be on Indiana. They will, I can almost assure you, they will take money as well. So if you like Indiana on the open and you can bet it. So yeah, I'll most likely be on Indiana. It's a good spot. And and I think if they win that game, which I think they do, and then they beat Rutgers, you're not going to be able to find some of the numbers that you can find out there now.
And you're not concerned at all that Indiana might not make the tournament?
No, I mean, I think that they have enough quality games left, and they're going to get healthier. And I think that there's really no chance that they're going to miss. If I look right now, let's see. One of my favorite sites to go to is Bracket Matrix.
Yep.
So what's Bracket Matrix? And it kind of just compiles.
I love
I would imagine
real-time analysis.
Real time. Indiana's a 5 seed right now, a projected 5 seed. So they would have to have a utter collapse.
Okay.
Yeah, the lowest seed that anyone has them projected is a 7. So I don't think there's any way that they fall out of the tournament.
Okay. All right, Stuckey. Thanks for stopping by. Find Stuckey in the Action app. He'll be on some games tomorrow for sure once those lines open. Thanks for stopping by the show.
Yeah. Tomorrow morning, 3-man weave. Check us out. We'll break down the card as well. And good luck on all of your wagers.
On to the world of soccer. EPL action taking place all weekend long, 3 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. Then we have Man U Crystal Palace FC tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Man U a significant favorite, the biggest favorite of any this weekend. And then Man City-Tottenham Hotspur coming up on Sunday. We welcome in the Wonder Goal guys to Green Dot Daily. It's been a while. I see some of you in some capacity covering other sports. BJ Cunningham is here. Anthony Dabbundo. We'll get to BJ momentarily. We'll go to Anthony first. Best bets for the slate. You can go to today, Saturday, Sunday. That's the beauty of it. A lot going on this weekend. Dabbundo, where are you looking towards in EPL this weekend?
Yeah, the highest profile game of the weekend is on Sunday, 11:30. Tottenham hosting Manchester City. These two teams actually just played about 2 weeks ago at Manchester. There were 6 goals, but I think there was a little bit of a misleading situation in how that game played out, and game state played a huge role in ultimately there being so many goals. The first half of that game, Man City created about 0.4 expected goals. They weren't able to do much against Tottenham's pretty sturdy defense and low defensive block. And then the goal that opened up the game and really changed everything came from a bad back pass from the goalie from City. So it wasn't necessarily anything Spurs did. They were kind of gifted the opening goal of the match, their biggest chance of the match, and then another fluke goal right before halftime. So it was kind of like a weird game state situation where then City had to turn up the Jets in the second half and expose Tottenham at home. But the thing about City this year, their defense has been much worse, their attack has been much worse compared to last season. Last year, they were averaging about 2.5 expected goals per match. Best in all of Europe when you can factor in leagues. This year they're just above 2, so the attack has regressed a little bit. And they added Erling Haaland, and everybody knows he's got 20 plus goals, and he's going to win the Golden Boot, and he's incredible. But the rest of the attack around him has fallen off a bit, and they're just not getting the same level of high turnovers, same number of shots. They're getting worse shots. So I think that the City totals have been a little inflated generally in the market, and Tottenham has had success in the past against City, countering, transitioning. They have a couple elite players on the counter, but guys like Son have not been nearly as effective this year, and they've not been as good at creating big scoring chances in transition. They were second in the league last year. This year they're sitting around 9th. So it's been a significant decrease for Spurs. It's the main reason why their attack has fallen off. So I like the under 3 minus 120. I think it's still a little bit too high. I have it closer to 2.75. So I think City ultimately probably wins, but it will be a drag it out, low scoring kind of game.
Okay. BJ, what do you got for us?
I'm going to go a little Friday afternoon lights, Chelsea and Fulham. I'm going to go both teams to score at even money. We just saw this match on January 12th with Fulham winning 2-1. But the important thing in that match is Chelsea actually created over 2 expected goals, and they were playing with a man down for the final 60 minutes with João Felix getting a red card. If you've been following the world of soccer, Chelsea has spent over $250 million during the January transfer window. So their attack has to get better going forward, and actually has been. Last 3 matches, they've created over 5 expected goals. But in the very, very extreme short term for Chelsea, they just spent $121 million on Enzo Fernandez, a midfielder from Benfica. He might play in this match. I'm not really sure. If he doesn't, Chelsea is down to just 2 midfielders. And they're also still without Reece James and Ben Chilwell, their 2 best fullbacks. And the best way that Fulham likes to attack is they love to get the ball out wide, and they love to just swing crosses into Alexander Mitrovic, who is incredibly important for Fulham. He's created 11.3 of their 28.5 expected goals this season. He didn't play in this last match against Chelsea because he was suspended. So their attack should get even better the second time they face Chelsea. And so I think it's going to be very difficult for Chelsea to defend in those areas. But the flip side of it is Fulham is one of the worst defenses in the Premier League. They're allowing 1.7 expected goals per 90 minutes. Since the World Cup break, or since we came back from the World Cup, they've allowed 8.3 expected goals and 6 big scoring chances. So I think this is going to be a nice up and down type match. Both teams' offenses have great ability to score here against these two defenses. So both teams have scored no at even money for me.
All right, so BJ's on the afternoon game today, and Dabbundo's looking later in the weekend. Fellas, when's Wonder Goal back again?
Next Wednesday or next Thursday morning is for breaking down the Premier League slate.
Yeah, and we just had our 100th episode previewing all of the weekend. That's up now. You can find.
I saw that, and Chad Millman was impressed, and he couldn't believe that Matt Mitchell let you guys keep going on the air. So that's good.
Chad Millman is always impressed with us.
Yeah,
he tells us every day how great we are.
That takes quite a bit too for him to say something like that. So that's impressive. Okay, Lieboff will join these guys next week, next Thursday. I'm sure we'll have them on the show again soon. BJ Cunningham, Anthony Dabbundo, find them in the Action Network app. They'll be all over the EPL circuit. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Brendan.
Thanks, Brendan. Okay. On to a barn burner tonight in the NBA. It's can't miss television. Hornets, Pistons, the worst two teams in the Eastern Conference. Charlotte is 15-38. Detroit is 13-39. However, as we know, on this program, other programs you may tune into at Action Network, we don't necessarily care about their records. We care about the edge, and Sean Little has one for you.
Appreciate you as always, Brendan. Let's do a total in the NBA today. I'm going Pistons, Hornets, under 240, minus 110. This number is flat out too big in this spot. Let's focus on the Hornets. They are coming off a back-to-back. They played the Bulls last night. In 7 back-to-back games this season, they're only averaging 107 points per game. That's 28th in the NBA. Overall, the last 10 games, 29th in offensive rating, only scoring 109 points per 100 possessions. Now, you would think LaMelo Ball coming back in the fold, coming off the injury in the last 3 games, the offense would pick up, start getting more efficient. It hasn't. Last 3 games, since LaMelo Ball's back, 28th in offensive rating. And then if you flip it on the defensive side of the ball for the Charlotte Hornets, over the last 10 games, they've actually been playing a lot better on defense. 15th in defensive rating, towards the bottom of the league in that category for a majority of the season. Mason Plumlee averaging almost a double-double now. PJ Washington averaging a block a game. They're picking it up on the defensive end. And on the flip side, Detroit's also just struggled overall to score buckets this year. So have the Hornets. These are 2 teams that have struggled on the offensive end. One's coming off a back-to-back, which typically means that assist-to-turnover ratio drops, the efficiency drops. It's just a more sluggish game on the offensive side of the ball. I'm really focusing on the Hornets here. I think their lackluster play on the offensive side of the ball brings this game total under that 240 mark. Lock it in right now, minus 110 over at BetMGM.
Wow. Charlotte, Detroit, 240 points. I mean, we've seen totals like that throughout the year, but my goodness, that might be worth tuning into as far as the points being scored in that game. But in Sean Little's case, he likes the under. Picks from folks like Sean Little, Dabbundo, Cunningham. They explore other sports besides soccer, but they're on the soccer slate this weekend. Stuckey, you can find all the picks from Green Dot Daily at Green Dot Daily in the Action Network app. You can download the app. It's free. You can watch our show, but also tail picks, fine picks from the program. They get logged shortly after we conclude each and every weekday. Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use the bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,000 first bet insurance. Terms and conditions apply. Stuckey made mention of this earlier in the show, but tune in to Big Bets on Campus tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Stuckey and the 3-man weave crew, Jim, Kai, and Matt, they'll join Stuckey to break down what is a loaded college basketball slate. Some great games at noon. Virginia, number 6 team in the country, they're playing at noon. Kansas, Iowa State, they're at noon. Some really good noon games. UConn, their slippage. Can they get back on track? They're at Georgetown tomorrow at noon. So you want to be sure to watch at 10:30 tomorrow. College basketball best bets, BBOC presented by BetMGM. Okay, that's it. That is the week of shows here at Green Dot Daily. We are back on Monday at noon Eastern, and we officially enter Super Bowl week. So you made it through, one weekend to go. And then Monday, we're pretty much going to be breaking that sucker down top to bottom, the Super Bowl 57, Kansas City and Philadelphia. And we'll have a bunch of other stuff as well on the show. We're live at noon Eastern, back here on Monday. For everyone behind the scenes, our guests today throughout the course of the week, Brendan Glasheen, Green Dot Daily, noon Eastern on an Action Network app, also on Action Network HQ Twitter. Pardon me, on YouTube. We will see you all again next week. Have a great weekend.